All right, guys, we're on to number 12 and 13 of our test so that we can get our corrections done and hopefully turn them back in. So we are doing number 12. There are 350 red flowers in a room. There are 70 more yellow flowers than red flowers. Okay, just so we don't get confused, let's get that out of our brain. And we're going to go red flowers are, actually let's write it over here, 350. Yellow flowers, it says there are just 70 more yellow flowers than red flowers. So if we take our 350 and we add 70 more, that is going to give us 420 if you do that math. And so we'll write down 420. There are 140 fewer white flowers than yellow flowers. So our white flowers are going to be 140 fewer than our yellow. So we just have to take our 420, take away 140, and that will give us 280 if you do that math. So that tells us all of the information about those flowers. Then what is the question that they're asking us? What is the ratio of the number of red flowers to the number of yellow flowers to the number of white flowers? So they're just asking us for the ratio of this. So this may have been a little confusing to you, even though I know you know how to do it, but sometimes they word it in a way where it's hard to figure out exactly what we need to do with our problem. But essentially you have the ratio right here. Right now the ratio is, because red was the first flowers they gave us, so we write 350. Yellow was the second flowers they listed, so we write 420. And white were the last flowers they listed, so we write 280. That's actually our ratio right there. But that is way too big for us to understand as a simple ratio, so we need to reduce it or simplify it. So the first thing we do is we just say, these are really big numbers, but using my rules of divisibility, trying to figure out what number I can divide them by, I'm going to go ahead and figure out how to reduce these. I need to find a number that all three of these can go into. Because they all end in 0, I know they can be divided by 10. So if I take 350 and divide it by 10, it is just going to equal, if we use our rule of zeros here and go 350, take away our 0 and take our 0 away from 10, it would just equal 35. So that, if we divide it by 10, is going to equal 35. Same thing with 420. If I take away my 0 from 420 and my 0 from 10, it's just 42 times 1. Add back my, and so that would be, since we're dividing, we don't need to add any zeros back. So it'd be 42, and this would be 28. Now I can see that these are all still numbers that I can divide by to make them smaller. So I need to figure out what can I divide them by. Well, I can see that 35 is by 7. I can divide by 7. Also 42 and 28. So let's do dividing by 7. 35 divided by 7 is 5. 42 divided by 7 is 6. And 28 divided by 7 is 4. And those can't be reduced anymore. So this is actually our ratio right here, 5 to 6 to 4. All we had to do is take our numbers that we figure out by adding and subtracting and reduce them down. And you could have really kept dividing by any numbers. If you said, well, I wanted to divide by 5, then you would have had to seen they were even again. If you did that, and it would have reduced by 2. There's lots of different ways you can do it, as long as you keep dividing by whatever you know you can divide it by till you get to the simplest form. So that's your answer. The second, or number 13, we're going to do the ratio of the number of cars to the number of motorcycles in a parking lot is 10 to 3. So let's write that down. 10 is our cars, and our motorcycles are 3. So let's write our bars here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll make that a little bit smaller so it's the same. And then 3 motorcycles. We'll just make it to our 3 here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's our first ratio. The ratio of the number of motorcycles, so we're talking about motorcycles again on our next ratio, to the number of vans, oh, we don't have a van, so let's make a new van down here for this ratio, is 2 to 5. Motorcycles are 2, vans are 5. So we draw our boxes here, and 5. 2, 3, 4. Perfect. There are 30 vans in the parking lot. Okay, so not only do we have a ratio for our vans, we know it equals 30 vans. How many more cars than vans are there? Okay, so in order to do that, we need to first figure out by somehow what units we're talking about. So the best way we can figure out that, the only way right now, whoops, let me move my paper up here. The only way is to take 30 and divide it by 5, because that's how many units here. So we take 30, the number of vans, divide it by how many units. 30 divided by 5 equals 6. So each of these is 6 on just this ratio down here of motorcycles to vans. But now that I know each of them is 6, I can figure out how many motorcycles I have. If both of these units are equal to 6, I can say 2 units times 6, because that's how many in each unit, is 12. So there's a total of 12 motorcycles. So up here, I can say this is equal to 12, because there's 12 motorcycles, and so there would still be 12 motorcycles up here. So now I would go 12, but here there's 3 units for the motorcycles. So 12 divided by 3 units equals 4. So each of these is 4. The reason they can't be 6 like they are down here is this is a whole different ratio. So only the ones in the ratio can be the same units. So all of these, since these are both the numbers 10 to 3 in our ratio. So now I know cars I can figure out as well. There's 10 boxes, they each equal 4. That would be 10 times 4 would equal 40. So now I know how many cars, motorcycles, and vans. And my question was, how many more cars than vans? Here's my cars, here's my vans. How many more cars than vans? Well, if I take 40 cars, take away 30 vans, there's 10 more cars than there are vans. So your answer would be 10 more cars. Hopefully you can see that on the edge there. All right, and if you listened in class, you learned that number 15 and 16, I'm just going to give you points for, because number 15 and 16 were very difficult. If you really would like to know the answer, because you might stay awake at night trying to figure that out in your head, you are welcome to come see me and I can totally give you the answers. But it's very confusing because they use decimals and fractions we didn't teach you about, so we're not going to give you those points for that.